It's time to talk sports. It's Hacksaw's Headlines, a panorama of the world of sports, stories, comments, and opinions. Now, here's iconic sports talk show host Lee Hacksaw Hamilton and co-host John Riley.
Who wants to talk sports on a Monday? We do, you do. From the DIXIELINE Lumber and Home Center studios in San Diego, coming off a great sports weekend, we welcome you to our Monday bonus podcast. Good afternoon, everyone. This is Lee Hacksaw Hamilton, along with my co-host with his opinions from left field, John Riley. We welcome you to this podcast. This podcast brought to you by DIXIELINE Lumber and Home Centers, 9 locations to serve you in San Diego. You got projects for the fall, looking into the winter. They got materials. You want ideas? Think DIXIELINE Lumber. Go to DIXIELINE.com to see all the things that they have to offer. John Riley, pennant race, baby. We're going to the final week of the baseball season. We got NFL football to talk about, ton of college football to talk about, and we got news and notes a lot of places. And then when we're done, the fans are going to join us in Fans Forum. How you doing?
Holy crap. Our heads are going to explode today. There's a lot going on.
Just a reminder, when we're done putting topics on the table, because we do sports talk the way it should be done, expressing opinions, giving you information, we want you to join us. At the end of the podcast, we started something right from the get-go 3 years ago. It's called Fans Forum. Your chance to ask a question, your chance to make a statement, your chance to take a shot. How does Fans Forum work? For all the people who are new on the live stream, who've never seen this before, maybe never ever participated, how do they get involved?
Corner kick me a question. Okay, so if you have a question or comment in the world of sports for Hacksaw, maybe even for me, for God knows why, but maybe you want to talk to this guy, to Hacksaw. And if you want to do that, just drop your take, your question or comment in the live chat on YouTube, X, or Facebook. We'll get you involved in Fans Forum at the conclusion of Hacksaw's Headlines.
You like sports? I know you like sports. That's why you're part of this podcast, more than 8,000 strong, our followers now. You like sports? I want you to sample my website. I write on it every day on the internet. It's leehacksawhamilton.com. It's there first thing every morning. You won't believe the volume of information that's available on my website. Want you to join Hacksaw's Insiders Group. You can register right on the front page of the website. You do that, you get on the email list for special things we send out, 2 emails per day. Want you to share, tell everybody what we do Mondays and Thursdays at 1:30. Want you to subscribe. When you subscribe, notably on the YouTube channel, you will get the alerts every time we put up additional videos. And we put 5 to 7 to 10 different videos up during the course of the week in addition to the podcast. We want you to give us a thumbs up. We want you to follow. Give us a 5-star rating. It really helps us a great deal. I covered all that sales pitch?
You did. Yeah. I mean, you sound like a pro, man.
I am a pro. Hey, we're going a lot of different directions here. We try to cover a lot of unique and different things. You may agree. You may disagree. We don't care. But we would like to hear from you when we're done. Looking for first-timers. Identify yourself by putting a star or an asterisk next to your name. First-timers, Fans Forum chat box coming up at the end of the podcast. Let's get going because, man, there's a lot of cool stuff to talk about. We got baseball.
It's the final week of the season, into the home stretch. And what do you think about the Padres and Dodgers, Lee?
Let's just talk about these 2 teams here because we're in the final week of the season. The Friars are 85-71. The Padres, though, have gone 11-15 in the last month. They're not hitting on all cylinders. As we sit here on this Monday bonus podcast, the Padres are in second spot in the wild card race. With 6 games left, they're only 3 back of the Dodgers. Is it really possible the Padres could chase down Dodger Blue? I don't think so, but I guess anything could happen. However, they're 3 games back of the Cubs for the top wild card spot. Is that possible? I think that has potential. Cubs are battered. Cubs don't have Kyle Tucker. Cubs are really ailing. Cubs pitching staff is running on fumes. Cubs have lost 4 in a row. I think there's an even-Steven chance the Padres, if they can roar through the final 6 games, might catch the Chicago Cubs and get the top wild card spot, which is hugely important as it relates to getting home games in the wild card round.
Yeah, for sure.
So keep that in mind. Now, we'll spin back to talk about the big issues. Do the Padres have enough quality starting pitching to go deep into October? We know Nick Pivetta deserves the first start. I don't know who deserves the second start. Is it Cease? Is it Michael King? Is it going to be somebody else? Because there's really nobody else out there that you can trust. So let's talk Padre baseball. And by the way, since August 1st, their superstar, Manny Machado, is hitting .209. He looks lost. Doesn't seem to be the same player. I don't know if it's the pressure's gotten to him, but boy, this is not a good situation going deep into October. So the Padres have two questions. Who do you trust beyond starter number one? And is Manny Machado going to come back? Or is this what we're going to get the rest of the season? So that's all things Padre baseball. Let's talk Dodgers. First place Dodgers. Dodgers just completed the home schedule, drew 4 million fans, averaged over 49,000 per game. That's pretty impressive. Dodgers are 88-68. Big question. Can they just get by hitting home runs? Because the rest of the team's lineup not producing with any consistency. The second question, which has loomed out there since the All-Star break, there's nobody in the bullpen that I really want to bring into a game that I'm going to have to bring into a game unless they're going to extend all their starters and squeeze as many pitches and innings as they can. This bullpen has now blown 26 saves, and this bullpen collectively has 32 losses on their resume. So the Dodgers, as good as they are in first place, will probably get a bye, and that is hugely important for them in the first round of postseason play. Speaking of Dodger Blue, Clayton Kershaw, what an enormous outpouring of fan support and emotion in his final regular season start on Friday night. The Dodger players stood in the dugout. As the anthem was finished, Dodger players come up to the top steps, take off to run on the field, as they normally do, and they stop. And they let Kershaw go to the mound. He wasn't paying attention. All the other Dodger players stood on the edge of the dugout and let Kershaw go to the mound by himself and stand there for over a minute.
That's cool.
For all the accolades of the
it's well-deserved.
49,000 fans, they were cool. And he pitched well. And then Kershaw goes pulled in the fifth inning. He left it on the mound. They went and got him. He came off 4-minute standing ovation.
Right on.
Curtain call. The Dodgers fans would not let him stay in the dugout. And the players came out, conga line of players hugging him. It was really impressive. His post-game press conference, John, I've been to a zillion press conferences, some great, some bad, some retirement, some happy, some sad. His press conference, he saluted God, saluted his wife, saluted his teammates. He saluted the legacy of Dodger baseball. There were cheers. All the players stood in the back during the press conference. There were tears. He talked about faith. He talked about grunge rock bands, too. I mean, it was really, really a funny press conference. It was really cool. We get through the weekend, and here we are on Monday, and the Dodgers are trying to make roster decisions. The Dodgers have given up on Michael Kopech. He can't throw strikes. He's been placed on the DL again. He's had 3 different injuries. The Dodgers should give up on Blake Trinan. He's got a 5.35 ERA. He's 1-5 in his last 7 outings. He's just been horrid. They are recalling Brock Stewart. He had 2 shutout appearances at Oklahoma City, but when he was up here, he got lit. And I think by midweek they're going to bring Roki Sasaki up. Sasaki's had 3 straight 1-inning outings, has yet to allow a hit, 3 innings, 5 strikeouts of the 9 batters that he's retired, and he's been clocked at anywhere from 98 to 100. Now, that's a bit of a gamble. Once we get to postseason play, you're going to ask Sasaki, who's never done this, to come out of the pen in the playoffs and throw heat. but they are so desperate for anybody. And get this, Brewster Gratterall could be brought up by the end of the week. Now, he's been sidelined with shoulder issues, etc., all year, but he's thrown, so he might be coming back too. So I wouldn't dare say cavalry is about to arrive, because some of these guys you can't trust, and Sasaki is so young. So this is fascinating. Okay, so John, let's talk Padre baseball. Stand up and then sit down, and let's talk Dodger baseball with all these different angles.
Okay, you raised a lot of points. I'm just taking notes over here. So you're right. There are a lot of question marks after Pivetta. If you go into the postseason, but you're only going to really need 3 guys in that initial series, right?
But you need 3 who are going to get you beyond the 3rd and 4th inning.
Well, clearly, you obviously need that. And Pivetta is clearly the number one. Now, Michael King looked a heck of a lot better.
Yes.
Okay, and his Sunday outing, that release point, that movement of the ball, the way it kind of whips around and sinews its way into the strike zone, that was looking good. But I still think you got to go with Darvish, the experience, number 2, and hopefully that all goes well. And I think you're probably going to have to use King as 3 because you're hella not going to go with Dylan Cease, who's been like, a gas can, blowing up. And, Vasquez is a little bit too nerve-wracking at times, although the end result has been good with him.
Can they chase down the Dodgers for first place? Or am I sales pitching the fans here something that's not true? Is it more realistic they can chase down a staggering Cubs team?
Well, mathematically, it's possible. Realistically, it's not really possible at all because the Padres have to play 2 playoff teams. They have to play the Brewers and the Mariners. That's not going to be easy. The Cubs, they're slipping and sliding. You said that
the Brewers in Arizona.
Oh, what did I say? Mariners. Oh, who's playing the Mariners is the Dodgers are playing the Mariners. Okay, I was getting those confused. But still, it's going to be hard. If you could imagine, dream scenario, you win 5 or 6 of the final games, and L.A. kind of sputters, maybe, goes 2 and 4 for the remainder, and then, you could sneak in, but it's very unlikely. You just got to get comfortable that we're going to probably go on the road in Chicago. I'm sure Cubs fans are going to want some revenge for 1984. There'll be some of that. But, the other comments on the Padres, Manny's coming around. He had that big grand slam over the weekend. That looked good.
One swing, pal.
But still, he's coming around here. Tatis is heating up. He's starting to hit some bombs.
So is Jackson Merrill.
And Jackson Merrill's been looking really good, and then Cronenworth is steady Eddie there. So, the Padres are going to settle in as that number 5. If they can get into the 4 or the 3, that'd be wonderful. They can host a game. But I'm not counting on it.
Okay, that's my co-host talking from his heart rather than his head sometimes.
I'm just being realistic.
Okay. Let's be realistic about the Dodgers. I gave you a lot of angles, a lot of storylines there. Go ahead.
Okay, well, first of all, they're not going to get a bye, okay, because you got to be in the first or second slot. How many games behind the Phillies and Brewers are they? I don't know if that's realistic. So the question is, are they going to be the 3 or the 4? Either way, they host a game, host the games for the first round. So I think LA's just figuring, let's just get another NL West flag, and it's probably going to work out that way. What about the game yesterday? Yesterday I'm watching Padres, I'm watching NFL, but, I'm just on my computer, I'm looking, and on my phone, I'm looking at the Giants-Dodgers game. And I saw that it was a 3-1 result, and I went back and looked at the box score. Sheehan went 7 innings, 10 strikeouts. He only gave up a few hits. It was either 1 or 2 hits.
Gave the ball to Blake Trinan and his can of gasoline.
Right, exactly. And I'm like, this is fabulous. Giants fans are probably giddy about that, or poking the Dodgers. But, they've got a problem they've got to address there. But I think when they assemble that playoff roster, there's going to be a lot of other guys that you think of as starters, like Sheehan as an example, that'll probably be in the bullpen. Sasaki, I still think, is the Dodgers' secret weapon. I think it's like the Manhattan Project that they're cooking up in the laboratory, and they're going to roll it out in the playoffs. I can see that happening. And by the way, I thought I saw Gratterall was out for the year. That he wasn't going to be coming back. So I don't know, that guy, he's bruised all Gratterall. He's always doing this shtick. I'd rather not see him on television.
And what's your reaction to all things Kershaw and the way he was treated, accepted, and beloved in his final regular season game?
Well, like my take on Kershaw is always the guy that I would love to hate, but I can't hate. There's no reason to hate him. He's so good. He's a good guy, and he's represented his franchise, so he deserves all the accolades. But there are still people in the media that are slamming Kershaw because the postseason performance has been very subpar.
And I've been slamming some of the guys in the media who are slamming Kershaw.
Hey, but why would you slam him for anything in the regular season? I mean, he's got multiple Cy Youngs, right?
222 and 96 in his career.
Yeah, I mean, he's hella good.
First ballot Hall of Famer.
I'm shocked that he's still as good as he is at this age.
Yeah. Hey, one sidebar note. Will Smith, disabled list, fracture of the hand. It's not healed. They've found a small chip fracture. I don't think he's going to be ready for postseason play. They're going with two kids, Dalton Rushing and a third stringer. One's hitting 196, the other's hitting 156.
Sid from Toy Story on the injured list. But, was Rushing. He had some good at-bats against the Padres. So, he's no slouch, even though he's a kid. And then, but the other catchers, I remember they always had, what was the one catcher they always had there forever as the backup?
Austin Barnes.
But he's gone now, right? So, all right, well, I mean, Will Smith is a huge bat in that lineup.
Exactly. And it looks as if he's going to miss the first round of whenever they play. Okay, that's the leadoff story. Padre fans, you concerned about the makeup of your team? Dodger fans, we've put a lot of items on the bulletin board. Want you to join us in the fans forum chat box. We're not done talking baseball because there are news and notes everywhere else.
Yeah, this is interesting. You have your list of who's hot and who's not.
Let's talk about Milwaukee. 95 wins, Milwaukee in here to play the Padres. Milwaukee is still in a dogfight to see who has the best record in all the National League. Milwaukee is going to go to the playoffs without one starter and maybe a second starter all of a sudden. They've had some guys that have contributed this year that we never, ever imagined, and one of them was Brandon Woodruff, who was a former frontline starter, missed 2 full years with elbow surgery, shoulder surgeries. He's now got a lat strain. He's just gone on the DL and looks as if he is gone for a large chunk, if not all, of postseason. And Jacob Misiorowski, the hot young rookie, he had some health issues after 5 starts, got to the All-Star game, throwing 101 miles an hour and all that. And then his ERA exploded. They put him in the bullpen. He's got some shoulder problems, too. So they might be down 2 starters with a week to go in the season. That's
interesting.
That's not good in Milwaukee. Second baseball item, Pittsburgh Pirates. He's only been there a year and a half. He's obviously the leader. And boys, he had something to say. Talking about Paul Skeens, the bright young Pirate star. He stands up on the clubhouse over the weekend, and he challenges the owners publicly. And the media took this thing and ran with it. It's become a nationwide story. And his quote was, "I hope the owners of this team learn what the season was like, look in the mirror, have the tough conversation, make adjustments, and don't waste another year of our life." In essence, Paul Skeens is saying, bad roster, very little in the farm system, you've not spent very much payroll, fix the franchise. And this is from a guy that's only been in the major leagues a year and a half. But you're talking about a stand-up guy who makes a lot of sense, Paul Skeens. Washington, miserable season, pushing 100 losses. Washington Post does this investigative report yesterday in which they say the Lerner family, which has owned the franchise through a couple of generations, has wrecked the franchise. That it's directionless, that it's dysfunctional, that they have 10 family members in the hierarchy of the Nationals organization. And all these people sit in a room and have input, even though a bunch of these people don't have any baseball background. Boy, that's a bad combination. Bad story there in Washington. News and notes of who's hot and who's not in Major League Baseball. How about the Mariners? This dogfight in the American League West. Seattle's won 14 of their last 15, and they whacked Houston over the weekend. And then you got Cleveland. They've gone from 15 and a half games out of first place to 1 game back of Detroit.
Wow.
The Cleveland Guardians have won 14 of their last 16. So I text my friends back there, Go Indians. I mean, that's a phenomenal comeback.
Go Tribe.
If they win the division because of what's happened in Detroit, it'll be the first time in 125 years baseball history that anybody's come from 15.5 back to win.
Wow.
And they're one game back of Detroit right now. Yankees, they're doing it with their bats. They've won 18 of their last 26. I don't think they have anywhere near enough pitching, but some of the younger guys, Ben Rice, Austin Wells, starting to hit again with Judge, with Giancarlo Stanton, with Trent Grisham, who just keeps hitting home runs. The Yankees suddenly are a very hot team at the right time. Like I say, they won 18 in the last 26. Philadelphia Phillies, a little bit different team, but they've won 12 of their last 16 games. They're a little bit thin in the rotation. And Bryce Harper's not hitting home runs. He's had all these injuries for a year and a half, but they got enough guys putting the ball in play. Philadelphia's obviously a very dangerous team. And one that's not is Detroit. Nobody nationally is writing about this. I mean, this is an absolute collapse of their pitching staff. The Tigers have lost 18 of 25.
Whoa.
And nobody's talking about it. They've stopped hitting. They have one established starting pitcher, Tarek Skubal, and he was just examined for an oblique injury, yet he's taking the ball and going out there. They just DFA'd the number 2 starter, Charlie Morton, took him off the roster, had a 12.70 ERA in August. Jack Flaherty has not pitched with any consistency at all. Suddenly, Detroit's got no pitching. Like I say, they're 7-18 in almost the last month of Major League Baseball. And one final note here before I let John step into the batter's box. I don't know if you paid attention to the other races in the standings. In the fight for the final wild card in the National League, Cincinnati is now tied with the Mets.
Mets are in free fall.
And Cincinnati and the Mets are just one game ahead of the fire sale Arizona Diamondbacks. We got three teams separated by one game for the final wild card spot. That's just absolutely just amazing. Not that any of those guys would go very deep in postseason play, but I mean, if the Mets don't make the playoffs, this will be an unbelievable tank job, probably equal to what's happening up in Detroit. So, John, go ahead, pick a team, talk about Paul Skeens and anything else.
Yeah, just a couple of quick comments. The Paul Skeens thing, at first you're like, oh my God, that's something you should handle behind closed doors, that sort of criticism. I wonder, though, if he's sort of forcing the Pirates to get rid of him, because he's a malcontent and he's disrupting the chemistry. I mean, because they might need to trade him, so maybe this is giving them an excuse. What do you think of that?
I don't buy that because he's got such great value. He might win the Cy Young Award. I mean, look at the standings, how wretched Pittsburgh is. He's got a 2.09 ERA. He's going to probably win the Cy Young again.
It's like Steve Carlton with the Phillies those years.
Exactly. Yeah. So at the end of the day, what he's done, he's hit that hot button. I mean, he is igniting such controversy in Western Pennsylvania and from Pirate fans everywhere that this ownership group better step up and change the way they're doing the business and put better people here. So I was really intrigued with how strong his words were against the general manager, Ben Cherington, and obviously against the ownership, which has just sat there and done nothing.
Terrible ownership.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and just a few other things. Like, Detroit, total collapse. Someone called Denny McLain, the young Jack Morris, to get in there and save that pitching staff. But it's funny, you kind of focus on certain races. Obviously, we focus the most on the NL West. But for the longest time, that AL Central over there, it was like Detroit was up by a lot, and I just sort of stopped paying attention to that division. And all of a sudden, here come the Guardians. Now,
the Indians.
Yeah, the Indians. Excuse me. So I always think of the Phillies in the 60s had the ultimate collapse.
Oh, yeah.
So is this potentially worse?
That's what the baseball record book says. The Phillies had a 13.5-game lead. I believe it was in 1964 with Gene Mauch. But they ran out of pitching, and they died on the mound, and they wound up losing. But this was a 15.5-game lead over Cleveland.
There's been some epic collapses like that in history. I mean, in 2010, remember the Padres had that great run, and then they just ran out of gas by around mid-August. So, I don't know. I'm kind of tired of seeing Cleveland there, because they're always sort of this mid-team. They're like the Milwaukee Brewers. They always make the playoffs. They maybe make it through the first round, maybe not. But the Tigers kind of feels fresh to me. So I'd like to see the Tigers kind of hang on there.
I don't know. They just don't have enough arms. I mean, it is staggering. And if you look at the collective ERAs of everybody aside from Skubal, who you can give the ball to in Detroit?
Yeah, I didn't even know Charlie Morton was there. Wasn't he with the Braves most recently? Or
Braves and Orioles, etc.
And the Rays?
Yeah, he's been everywhere, but he's...
I thought he was still good.
He's 42.
Yeah.
He was good up till this year, and he has really faded.
Interesting.
Second half. Okay, that's all things Major League Baseball. You want to jump into the conversation, the fans forum chat box is open. Are you ready for some football? Oh, we're going lots of different directions with lots of different opinions around the National Football League. John, where do you want to start?
Yeah, we'll start with the SoCal teams, and those are some wild games.
Yeah, let's talk about last-second wins. Let's talk about last-second losses. Let's talk about the Chargers. Huge game against Denver. Not an easy game against Denver. A game that Denver could have won but wound up losing. And a game that Justin Herbert, the quarterback, refused to lose. The Bolts are now 3-0 with a fourth-quarter comeback. Herbert throws for 300 yards. Herbert survived getting sacked 5 times, getting hit, getting pressured. Herbert throws darts to Quentin Johnston. Unbelievable game-winning scramble out of my death pass rush. Throws a sidearm TD pass to Keenan Allen. Cameron Dicker, the best field goal kicker in the league that nobody knows about or pays attention to, whacks home a couple more field goals, and the Chargers post an enormous win. I am not going to say I told you so, but I told you so.
Nobody likes it, I told you so.
I fit the mold. I told you that Orlando Gadsden, who they drafted out of Syracuse.
Oh, he had today.
Pretty good credentials. First time he played in a regular season game, kid caught 5 passes. A couple of crunch time critical first down receptions. We talked about Marion Hampton. He had 25 touches combined in the game. He was really impressive. I think the number I wrote down was 70 yards rushing, 59 yards in receptions, 25 touches. That's a lot of heavy-duty work for a kid. Made no mistakes at all. Terrible setback for a good guy, Najee Harris, ruptured Achilles tendon. You don't want to look at the video. It's just an accident. Nobody touched him. His leg just exploded. It's an 8 to 12-month rehab. That's a real setback. They lost the right guard. Mekhi Becton is on concussion protocol. They lost the right tackle, who didn't play well. Trey Pipkins got poked in the eye. Bo Nix just doesn't have a lot of help right now. I don't understand Sean Payton's play calling. They ignored the wide receiver Courtland Sutton for the better part of the first half of the game. J.K. Dobbins finally got on track, busted some big runs against his old Charger team. Denver had 170 yards in returns on kicks and punts from Marvin Mims and virtually did nothing with it. And they self-destructed. They took so many major personal foul penalties that were needless. That's why the Broncos lost, while the Chargers were given the opportunity to win. And Justin Herbert just refuses to lose. So the Bolts are in first place. They're 3-0. That's amazing. Rams, so close, but at the end of the day, at the end of the game, so far away. Game that they had by the throat in Philadelphia. At one point, they led 26-7 in the third quarter, and it all went away. And Philadelphia started throwing the ball down the field. Philadelphia's defense ratcheted it up, got into Matthew Stafford's face. They blocked 2 field goal attempts. Rams had 3 offensive linemen, got nicked in the game, so they had backups that were trying to block on the field goal unit. And Josh Carty had 2 blocked at the end of the game, and one of them deflected, was picked up, taken back for a touchdown in a 33-26 Eagle come-from-behind victory. I've never seen this before. Jalen Hurts in the first half, -1 passing. Think about that.
Wow.
And in the first half, Philadelphia had 33 yards in offense. I mean, the Rams just showed up. And then Philadelphia came out in the second half. After it got to be a 19-point deficit, they went tempo, they went no huddle, they went fast. Rams couldn't get off the field, and suddenly Philadelphia's scoring, and they're back in the game. It's too bad because Stafford threw for 196, even though he was getting rocked. Puka Nacua had 11 catches for 112 yards, doing it by himself. They didn't utilize Devontae Adams enough, and Devontae was open on one touchdown pass that did not connect. So the Rams are going to regret this. I mean, there's no doubt they're good. They're 3-1, could be 4-0, should have been 4-0. They did everything except win the game at the end. Big time lead, big time claps. They're going to regret the second half. And I didn't realize this till last night. Sean McVay against the Eagles head coach is 1-6. There's something there that coaching staff in Philadelphia has figured out against McVay's team. 1-6. Okay, comments on the Bolts, comments on the Rams.
You know, that touchdown by Herbert, at the near the end of the game where he evaded the sack, went sideways, threw sidearm, avoided the hand in the face, and got that ball to Keenan Allen. I've seen that replay probably 100 times in the last 24 hours, and that is just an incredible play. I mean, because he should have been sacked. I mean, he was able to have that mobility to get around, and the way he made that throw, it's like a backyard football, Nerf football kind of thing. It was unbelievable.
But that's him.
That is him. And so it's kind of neat having Keenan Allen back. You just kind of feel this. It's like kind of having, your grandfathers there, and someone you can trust and who's been through all the rigors, and knows what to do. And he's the guy that he can always count on. And it's, going to be like a short pass yardage opportunity.
Quentin Johnston arrived.
Yeah, hell yeah. I'm happy for him because he got a lot of crap, rightfully so. And that was always the thing on him, whether he bobble balls, if he could hold on to it. But I think it's a great thing for him, the young man in his career, to experience that. So, yeah, I'm all for that.
Okay. And the Rams, so close but so far away.
Yeah, that was brutal. I mean, that really was brutal. I mean, you're talking about they got to waive their kicker. Jake Moody's still out on the street somewhere, right?
He signed in Chicago.
Oh, he did? Yeah. Oh, okay. All right. So
he's their problem now.
But, yeah, he has the world of potential, by the way, to hit bombs. But at any rate, the Rams, they were rolling early, and I couldn't believe it. I mean, watching that game, and I kind of lost a little bit of interest. I thought the Rams would have this thing going away, and then you see, the block, field goal at the very end. But I wanted to ask you about, halftime. Because you hear the story about, the coaches, they go back at halftime, they have a strategy session, and they kind of bring out a new game plan. But how much can you radically change? I mean, can you think of an example or a story where a team went from A to B, like A plan to B plan, and switched it up?
Are you getting beat? Why are you getting beat in the first half? Remember, you only have 12 minutes at halftime within that room. So you can't make a lot of radical changes.
Right.
But there are things you have practiced. I'm led to believe that Philadelphia went in and they decided we're going to go tempo. We're going to go faster. And then they started to hit plays, and then momentum started to build, and the fans got into it. And suddenly they get down and they score. And instead of being 26-7, it's 26-14. Then the Rams go 3 and out. Eagles get it back. Same thing. They were not running Barkley. Hurts scrambled some, but not a great deal. But they were hitting plays down the field. So that's what you can do. There are things you have practiced that try to change the tempo of the game. And suddenly the Rams could not get off the field, and the Rams could not force a punt. And the Eagles just kept chipping away. And the crowd went crazy. Crowd was vicious the first half. Oh, they booed.
In Philadelphia?
You think?
Yeah, you think? Yeah, you think they were vicious?
Yeah, so it was something. It was quite a comeback. But, I mean, that's heartbreaking for the Rams. When you're up 26-7 on the road in that building, and it gets away from you. Ooh.
Especially when you have, like you say, a 1-6 record, Sean McVay against the Eagles, you're like, we had this one on our hands, and it slips through. So, but then you kind of wonder, are these teams fully showing their cards? Because, they're going to meet again in the playoffs, or maybe it's too soon to talk about that.
Well, it's too soon to talk about that, but a win on the road against the Super Bowl champion?
Oh, yeah, that's a big morale boost for the team, and maybe even a playoff tiebreaker when we get down near the end of the season.
Sirianni 6, McVay 1.
Brutal.
Boy, that's going to be in their craw for a chunk of time. There were other games around the National Football League. Just run through the scoreboard with some opinions and some comments. You want to talk Chargers-Rams? Fans Forum chat box is open. Pile in here. Go ahead, John.
Okay, we're going to talk here a little bit about teams in trouble.
Let's talk about Green Bay. Green Bay got ambushed. Green Bay got beat up by Cleveland's pass rush. This, to me, was really hard to believe. The Packers lost to the Browns, and it wasn't because Joe Flacco played well. He didn't. He threw for 142 yards. But Green Bay's the one that had the pass rush yesterday, 5 sacks and blocked a field goal. The Cleveland Browns were really impressive against Jordan Love and the Packers. Big upset because here was Green Bay rolling in as if they were going to be unbeaten. Browns rolled them. Myles Garrett and those guys at Cleveland defense had an amazing game. Dallas Cowboys. How's Jerry's World today? Explain this one to me. They go to Chicago, and Caleb Williams had been really scuffling, throws for 298 and 4 touchdowns against the Dallas defense. And Dallas, although Dak Prescott was chucking the ball all over the yard, did not have CeeDee Lamb. He went out very early with a significant ankle sprain. So the Bears pile up yards and points, and the Bears beat the Cowboys. Raider Nation, you got a lot of work to do. You can screech and yell about Pete Carroll and Geno Smith and Ashton Genty and all that, but you don't have a very complete football team. They got problems in the offensive front. They got problems in the back seven and defense. Last I checked, this host said that was a problem when the season started. Boy, did they get rolled by the Washington Commanders along the way. Not a good outing. Geno Smith played a little bit better. They just can't freaking run the football. Ashton Genty had 5 carries, 5 yards before the game got out of hand. He did get some one chunk play, but their offensive line is just really poor for the Raiders. Mystery team to me. They made all these acquisitions to try to buttress everything around C.J. Stroud, and the Houston Texans are now 0-3. They got nailed by the Jacksonville Jaguars, and last I checked, that's not a very good franchise. But Trevor Lawrence threw for 222 along the way, and the Texans wound up losing. They're 0-3. Man, you're putting yourself in a big hole. 49ers. You got to be kidding me. How are the 49ers 3-0 with all those injuries?
Crazy.
They outgunned Arizona. Mac Jones throws for almost 300. That's a second really good week in a row for a guy that's kind of bounced around the league as a quarterback. Ricky Pearsall had 117 yards. Christian McCaffrey had 88 yards in receptions. Paid a price, though. They lost Nick Bosa, torn knee ligament. And just the casualty list, the body bag count in San Francisco is just ridiculous. And how Shanahan has this team. They got a better team on IR than they have on the field. They're 3-0. How about the Colts? Ex-Giant quarterback Daniel Jones, veteran running back Jonathan Taylor, wide receivers, the tight ends, the defense. Indianapolis is 3-0 on the season. They took apart Tennessee. And then there's Kansas City. Are they back? No. They did win. Look who they beat, the Giants. They really are unimpressive. They are 1-2. I'm not buying any theory that all is well in Kansas City. Did you see the sideline spat for the second week in a go with Travis Kelce and Andy Reid on the sidelines? And Mahomes having to do everything by himself. They can't run the bleeping football. Their pass plays down the field are hit and miss. I do think they really got a good young wide receiver. They just got to groom him. Tyquan Thornton, I was really impressed there. Maybe Xavier Worthy comes back this week and plays despite the shoulder injury. But they're just not the same football team right now in terms of where the roster is. So that's the out-of-town scoreboard. Some of the things I saw, my reaction. And you're sitting here drinking Pabst Blue Ribbon, smoking cigars in the family room. Go ahead and tell me what you saw.
Watching Captain Kangaroo with a deck of 51.
Yeah.
So anyways, looking at these games, first of all, When I saw that the Browns beat the Packers, man, I was just like laughing when I saw the result of that. I mean, how in the hell does that happen? How does Joe Flacco beat Jordan Love and the Packers?
But it was Myles Garrett in the defense.
Well, yeah, clearly. I mean, obviously. So that was kind of a surprise. The other comment is it's interesting you have the Niners and the Colts there on the same line. And you think of Mac Jones and Daniel Jones. It's like they're the same guy. They were kind of meh number one picks. They kind of flamed out. They kind of turned into backups, and now they're both reviving their career.
Yeah, I agree. And Daniel Jones was just victimized by really a crap organization around him and no players, and he kept getting hurt. Mac Jones was in New England, but, that thing had deteriorated post-Tom Brady, so he didn't have a lot of firepower around him. I thought Daniel Jones was a pretty competitive guy. We'll see. They're 3-0 in Indy, which is absolutely amazing. They are running the ball really well with John Taylor, which has taken a lot of pressure off the quarterback. And in terms of Mac Jones, San Francisco, it's obvious Kyle Shanahan's fingerprints are all over his development. He's managing games, but, you don't throw for almost 300 back-to-back weeks unless you've made strides under that head coach.
The Niners are lucky that they had Mac Jones.
Yeah.
And then finally, I'll just comment on the Chiefs. The Chiefs played the Giants, and the game was in New York, and it's this whole Russell Wilson, Jackson Dart, and the crowd was cheering and then booing when Dart went in and out of the game. Russell Wilson showed us flashes, but again, it looks like he's in the rearview mirror, even though apparently he was leading the league in passing yards.
Well, that's because he threw for 450 the week before.
Yeah, well, that's amazing. But in your opinion, if you're Brian is it Daboll or Daboll? Daboll. Are you going to start Russell Wilson, all season? Or are you going to kind of play this little in and out with Jackson Dart?
The schedule is really hard. You know who they play next? Justin Herbert and the Chargers.
Oh, wow.
And they've got some really tough games in the next 4 weeks. But at the end of the day, he's your future. If you're going to lose, you might as well lose with him and let him learn on the job, and he is an athlete. But they lost their lead running back yesterday. He's gone for indefinitely. Wide receiver Malik Neighbors has a back problem. He got hurt again. Offensive line is not quite where it should be. They've had injuries with the number one pick, the left tackle, Andrew Thomas. So if you're asking Jackson Dart to go in there, he doesn't have all the weapons that he would need around him. But that's the future. You might as well start him and play him.
Well, Scadaboo's playing, and that guy's hella good. He's fun to watch.
Yeah. So I'd give the ball to Jackson Dart with apologies to Russell Wilson. I'm not going to say he's hung on too long, but Russell Wilson looks like he's hung on too long. He looks like an old man.
Yeah, he does.
In terms of movement.
And he's not really that big either, So if he's not fast to get around those big defensive line guys, he's going to get balls batted in the face. And we saw that last night.
Okay, that's the out-of-town scoreboard. You got an opinion. Fans Forum chat box is open. NFL football fans are invited to jump on board. One final segment here before we get to halftime. We got some other storylines we want to kind of touch bases on.
Okay, here we go. NFL Notebook. Start with the Patriots.
Patriots did something really different on the weekend. Patriots have this Hall of Fame that they just started a group of years ago. They inducted Bill Parcells into the Hall of Fame. And he had a very short span in Foxborough with Robert Kraft and very successful. The Drew Bledsoe era became the Tom Brady era, and we know the rest of that history.
No, Parcells was there for that.
Beginning.
The very beginning.
And it was a bad ending. Parcells wanted to go back to New York, and there was a lot of acrimony. Anyhow, they inducted him in the Hall of Fame. And it was really interesting because they have not gotten along since that separation. There was an investigation about tampering and all that. And they went years where they would not recognize each other. Anyhow, the Patriots brought Parcells in. His speech on Sunday was absolutely amazing. He said, and this is from Bill Parcells, who was always my way or the highway. The coach who would fire players on the field if they screwed up in practice and just freaking cut them. The coach said, here's a quarter. Go home and call your mother and tell her that your NFL career is not working out. Anyhow, Parcells does this
back when there were payphones.
Yeah, very emotional speech. He says, I wish I had acted differently towards this man, pointing to Robert Kraft, than I did. Kraft went years and would ignore and not make a comment about the early success he had with Parcells. thank Parcells for bringing fire, focus, and laying a foundation for greatness, which obviously became what they became with Brady and Belichick. So that was really kind of a cool ceremony. They also inducted Julian Edelman into the Patriots Hall of Fame. He's a little mighty might wide receiver, into the draft choice out of Kent State. It was a freaking option quarterback, made him a great wide receiver. And Parcells saluted, says, this is the most gratifying thing you can have as a coach. A guy taken on the final day of the draft that nobody wanted, who's become a Hall of Famer here. He called them chaos and cleats. So that was a really cool ceremony in Foxborough. In Miami, the Dolphins are 0-3. I projected first casualty on the coaching firing ranks might be Mike McDaniels. Stephen Ross, public vote of confidence, although they got blown out by Buffalo.
We know what that usually turns into.
Yeah. However, what's different, and Ross talks about he needs more time, fix the roster, grow this thing. They're 0-3. What he failed to tell you was, I gave McDaniels a contract through 2028. You freaking think I'm going to eat that contract and fire this guy now? No. Interesting. Denver, quite an interesting story. He's kind of a backup wide receiver who's been productive. He's been around the block. His name is Josh Reynolds. He's one of the wide receivers who was with the Rams for a while and contributed. Was, I think, with the Jets. Anyhow, was with the Broncos. He got badly wounded in an incident outside a nightclub. Well, the the Denver police have released data that he was an innocent bystander who was out with friends and was targeted by a cocaine dealers group who thought he was a dealer who had reneged on a $250,000 drug deal and tried to kill him. Fired 60 shots into a vehicle. He survived, only had superficial wounds.
Wow.
But police said, and they arrested the guys that did this, these gang members said, these guys made a mistake. They thought it was a cocaine dealer, not an NFL player. He's lucky.
Yeah.
Lucky to be alive. And the Eagles, tush-push, brotherly shove. Tell you what, people are lining up to mandate the NFL change this play this offseason. They had this vote last winter. They fell shy by only 2 votes to remove the tush-push. Well, people have gone public. Jason Kelsey, legendary Eagles center, says the refs continue to miss Eagles' false starts. And this is an ex-Philadelphia center saying his guys cheat and the refs miss the false starts. Bill Cowher, legendary coach on CBS, he said yesterday, this is a fatal injury waiting to happen.
Fatal?
At the end of the day, you get all this manpower root-hogging blocks at the bottom of the pile, and you get somebody who gets bent at a bad angle, suffers a neck injury. You got 1,300 pounds of offensive linemen on a guy that may have suffered a broken neck.
Yeah, that's for real.
That is for real.
Yeah.
Bill Cowher says this is a fatal injury waiting to happen on the football field. The league needs to address it. And then Dean Blandino, former head of NFL officiating, who is now talking head on rules for Fox, he goes public and he says the NFL needs to reestablish the neutral zone. That's where the ball is placed. You need to have a clean neutral zone where I can look down the line of scrimmage and all I see is the ball and the center's hand. And they showed film clips yesterday on Fox. Oh, there's the ball, and there's Eagle guards on either side. Their helmets are lined up over where the ball is into, quote, the neutral zone. So Blandino says it's impossible to officiate because of the massive number of people. He says, by the way, it's a rugby play. He admits with Cowher that the potential for major injury is serious. And he says the other thing, for decades upon decades, there was a rule in the NFL, you could not push a player with a football up the field. And that's part of what the tush-push is all about. He says, yes, Philadelphia has mastered the play, credit to them, but they're cheating, and it's a dangerous play, and you're allowing illegal pushing. So that's where we are. Don't look at me strange. I know you're a push-tush guy. What's your response to each of those hot topics on the table? Starting with Parcells.
Parcells. I mean, I almost forgot about that guy,
Yeah.
you know, but, I think of him more as a Giants coach in the 80s. Him and his, sweater being lifted up by his team for the Super Bowl.
Him and Phil Simms.
Yeah. And, he was coach of the Jets and the Patriots, but he's a Giants guy. Just real quick on the tush push. First of all, I agree. The whole neutral zone thing seems very inconsistently officiated, because sometimes their hand is in the zone, sometimes their helmet's leaning in on the zone. I don't know. I mean,
the guys are coming off I swear to you, John, the guards are moving forward before the ball's been snapped.
I believe you on that. And it doesn't. I get the sense of by the time Jalen Hurts is moving forward, it's almost as if there are rollers underneath him that make him kind of get this second and third surge, onto the other side.
And his offensive guards and center have already had the first surge because they moved.
Yeah. And then just a little bit of a tangent. You mentioned Bill Cowher. Did you see that NFL Today show? You see how they dressed up for that?
Yeah. I was intrigued to see some of it. I was kind of disappointed. I was hoping they would have done it in black and white TV.
Well, we had color back then,
Yeah.
but when I first saw Cowher in this wig and this goatee, and Tim Ryan looked like totally like a dude from the 70s.
Yeah.
It was fun at first, but then I thought, how are they going to pull this off for the whole show? And then it was obviously a tribute to Brent Musburger and the NFL Today that they started in the 70s, which I grew up on.
Exactly.
And that's how I learned about football, was his show. And I've always been a big Brent Musburger fan. So then I was starting to dig it, and they were being serious in their commentary, even though they were dressed up like it was 1974 or something. But what was cool is the CBS graphics and the whole production really leaned in. And so the graphics were kind of this sort of pixelated, very simplistic graphics.
The font and everything, yes.
Yes, and the font was different. And then, they even busted out one of those boards, offensive line, defensive line, who gets the check mark. But they had a physical board out there, rather than something digital on the screen. And they're standing next to it, going back and forth. And so it was fun. And then Musburger was there, was telling stories about, Jimmy the Greek and Phyllis George and all these other things. And it was, at first I was a little worried about it, but in the end, I really liked what they did.
Yeah, it was cool. It's been 50 years. It's absolutely amazing. And again, first one through the wall. They were the first one that ever did it. And I interviewed the late Irv Cross multiple times, and I know Brent Musburger, and I've interviewed him a couple times. They were the first one that creatively did it. And then, of course, that gave birth to all things about ESPN Game Day and Sunday and Chris Mortensen and John Clayton. And
Totally.
They took that content to another different level. And now our pregame shows are so big, so noisy, and so many talking heads, and so many graphics, and so much footage, and then sometimes they're outside, and it's cold and snowy, and it's just different. So that was neat. But it should have been in black and white. I would have appreciated it more.
You're looking live at Soldier Field in Chicago, Illinois.
You're not going to show up for the next podcast wearing a white shirt and bow tie, are you?
No, but that would be like Bill Nye the Science Guy. No, I'll probably be wearing a gold blazer with a CBS logo over my pocket.
Okay, that's all things National Football League. Join us. We put a lot of unique and different topics on the table because we do sports talk the way it should be done. We are at halftime. Our Monday bonus podcast brought to you by DIXIELINE Lumber and Home Centers. 9 locations to serve you in San Diego. You got questions, they got materials. You want ideas, they can help you a great deal. John, tell the people about DIXIELINE and that home center they have, the displays, what they offer in terms of renovations, kitchen, bathroom, man cave, etc., over in Solana Beach, in addition to the DIXIELINE stores everywhere.
Well, all the stores have displays, and partially installed kitchens and baths, and you can see the cabinetry and the countertops, and they got all the hardware there. It's like a showroom inside all the retail stores. But to your point, Lee, the one in Solana Beach, the design studio, which is kind of kitty corner from the home center store, where there's a lumber yard and like a traditional hardware store, building material store. Kitty corner from that is the design studio, where it's like it's like a boutique shop, and there you can sample a lot of these sort of European faucetry and some of these more, boutique items that you would never get in a traditional, let's say, lumber or building material store. So if that's your thing, if you want to go for like a really elegant kitchen and bathroom setup, yeah, go to the design studio. But man, DIXIELINE, good guys. I mean, they sponsor they've been sponsoring the Aztecs forever, and so they're a big part of the community in San Diego, the sports community. And so it's great that, Hacksaw and DIXIELINE are kind of doing stuff together still.
As a guy who didn't know my name that stopped me in the aisle at Vaughn said, Dr. DIXIELINE, your podcast, yes. And then I told him who I was. Yes, I watch you all the time. DIXIELINE.com. Check it out. See all the things that they have to offer. Hey, we are at halftime. Our podcast brought to you by DIXIELINE Lumber. 9 locations to serve you in San Diego. And the home store, if you will, at Solana Beach. And, of course, the one up in Dana Point. Just a couple of items. When we're done with topics on the table, you get the chance to take over this podcast. It's called Fans Forum. Yeah, there's a few people already lined up. That John puts a big blue star next to all the hot ones that are ready to comment. So, John, how does Fans Forum work for all the new people who've never been part of this?
Yeah, so right now, see, like on our screen right here, I mean, we can see all of the comments that are coming in from YouTube, from X, and from Facebook. And we try to get everyone involved. Like, I know some of you just love dropping your takes. Some of you guys have like 5 or 6 postings. We try our best to pick some of the best ones, or at least to have some reasonable balance of the topics we discuss. But I see here Michael and Jason and another Michael and David, Greg and Carlos, and Always Ben Dime, I think, if I'm reading that right, is on the list. Plus, we're talking Padres, Dodgers, Chargers, Raiders, a lot of great stuff in here. So if you want to get involved, just type your question or comment in the live chat on Facebook, X, or on YouTube. We'll get you involved.
You like sports? When we're done with the podcast, or you get some spare time, or maybe tomorrow morning, I want you to check my website. I swear to you, you won't find this information anyplace else. It's all written. You give me 5 minutes every morning when you read my website. You'll know every story there is in the world of sports. Just go to LeeHacksawHamilton.com on the internet and check it out. It's there first thing every morning. Want you to share. Tell everybody what we do Mondays and Thursdays at 1:30. Want you to subscribe. When you subscribe, you will also get the alerts because John and I put a lot of additional videos up on the YouTube channel. So make sure you get in the running to get those alerts. Join me on social media. Type in my name on X, on Twitter. Become part of the Twitter All-Star team, as I call it. Just LeeHacksawHamilton.com. Hit the follow button. That way you'll get to participate in all the mini poll questions that I pose. So we take this thing a lot of different directions. We're on a lot of different forms of social media.
I got an idea. Because, you always called it the Twitter All-Star team, your followers on Twitter, and now it's X, right? You got to come up with a new name. How about the X-Men? You got to come up with something new. We can't keep using Twitter. We got to use X.
Okay, we'll figure something out.
Okay.
My group will talk to your group.
Okay, yeah, we'll figure it out, man.
Okay, but join us because I think you'll really enjoy all the extra add-ons that we have, in addition to the podcast Mondays and Thursdays at 1:30. Okay, we go to the second half of this podcast. We're going a lot of other directions here. Let's talk some college football.
Holy moly. Could you believe the result of this San Diego State game? I mean, it was a beatdown.
Victory Monday. I felt good for Sean Lewis. Felt good for the Aztec fans. San Diego State just shells the California Golden Bears 34-0. The defense let the dogs loose. The defense made it like a street fight. In my life of broadcasting NFL and college football, I've never seen a game in which the other guy had the ball for 19 snaps, went 75 yards, took 10-plus minutes off the clock, and didn't get any points. That's what happened at the start of the game.
The first drive, yeah.
Cal had the ball for 19 snaps, and the Aztecs kept him out of the end zone. And how about the defense? Let the dogs run loose. They made it a street fight right from the beginning. 2 picks, fumble recovery, 4 sacks, 5 tackles for losses, and 10 passes deflected by their secondary. Chris Johnson had the 97-yard touchdown return off a pick. They had a 37-yard fumble recovery taken back for a score. There was an 80-yard pass completion to Jordan Napier that set up another touchdown. For the first time, Jaden Denegal looked composed, was 15 for 18 for 189 passing. For the first time, they had rhythm to the offense. For the first time, they were able to get their plays in, rotate a bunch of wide receivers. It was just a complete team performance. That's what it's supposed to look like under Sean Lewis. That's what it looked like in the first half of last season at Colorado when they had success. That's what he did at Kent State. The video I saw when he was at Syracuse and the video I saw at Bowling Green. Now, only counts as one win. Let's see if they can duplicate it as they go play a tough situation at Northern Illinois. But that was a really impressive win. Let's go from that. Let's talk about the University of San Diego. Does not get a lot of coverage. Good football coach Brandon Moore. A lot of churn, a lot of players coming and going. They were in the hole 35-14 at Princeton, Ivy League.
Smart guys.
Real smart guys. Their defense gave up 335 yards in the first half, and they were getting their doors blown off. They came out in the second half, changed quarterbacks, came out in the second half. They held Princeton to 64 yards in the second half.
Well, that's a halftime speech right there.
Exactly. Tyler Voss, transfer of San Jose State. First opportunity to play. 235 yards passing off the bench, 3 touchdowns. Also got 3 touchdowns from a running back. Huge win at Princeton, Ivy League, tough place to play. Nice win. Now they come home and they'll start playing people at their own level. Brandon Moore's a good coach. Had the terrible first year. They were stained by player suspension, hazing incident, etc. Had a strong second half last season. They're going to be good. Other team, USC. They tore apart Michigan State, 45-31. Jaden Mayava, he is the transfer quarterback from UNLV, throws for 234, 3 touchdowns. The only thing you need to know about the Trojans, bombs away. They're going to throw it deep. They're going to throw it a lot. Makai Lemon, 8 catches, 127, another touchdown bomb. The JUCO running back, Wayman Jordan, 157 yards on the ground. Weird part, Link Riley's team is 4-0. Nobody around the country is paying attention. They're 21st in the nation. Notre Dame is 0-2, is ranked ahead of them. How's that possible?
East Coast bias.
Yeah, exactly. But USC, really, really good offense, and now they're getting ready to kind of move into the teeth of the Big Ten schedule. So let's talk about victory Monday for the Aztecs, USD, and Southern Cal.
I mean, this is all about Aztecs right now because, first of all, I'm just thrilled. I mean, I'm really happy for Sean Lewis. So, this is what we've been talking about for a year and 3 games, and now we're finally seeing Aztec fast, right?
Yep.
And so it was shocking. I mean, the Aztecs were a 14-point dog, and they won 34-0. I mean, talk about the pendulum swinging all the way over to the other side. And, you're watching that really long, like 90-something, whatever, pick six, and there were just so many moments in that game. You're like, I can't believe this is real, and then you're I'm on social media with Aztec for Life fans, and they were giddy, and even today, even on Monday, they're still giddy. They're like excited. We're finally relevant again, and I'm just really happy for them. So do you think this is a sustainable thing, or is this a one-off? Or, obviously the crowd, we can talk about, there's obviously some controversy with the crowd and the tickets, but it was a bigger than normal crowd. So it seemed like that was helping the team perform on the field, don't you think?
Well, I think the energy with Snapdragon was probably equal to the first time they ever played there. There was a lot of energy in the stadium. The debut game against the University of Arizona.
Oh, that was the hot one.
That was the 110-degree day, and nobody ever came back after that, and the team started to lose, etc. But I think we saw the potential. The thing that is a positive to me is they didn't beat Slippery Rock or Stony Brook. They beat a Division I program, and they beat the crap out of a Cal team that was 3-0. And that quarterback at Cal is only a raw freshman.
But he's good.
Oh, he's really dynamic, and they're going to be really good. And he got them early. He hit passes early and was going right down the field. And then the defense just learned to play. They were dropping 6 and 7 guys into coverage, and they made Sagapatelli hold the football. And then all of a sudden, he's throwing into coverage he shouldn't be throwing into. But he's a freshman. But that was a legitimate win against a Pac-12 team that was 3-0. So let's see if they can build on it. Now, that going forward, they're going back to play in the Mid-American Conference. And they're going to play Northern Illinois. Northern Illinois has got a big 6'4" freshman quarterback. But Northern's coach, Thomas Hammock, he was at Wisconsin when Sean Lewis was a tight end at Wisconsin. They know each other pretty well.
Oh.
And he was at Northern Illinois when Kent State played Northern Illinois in the Mid-American Conference Championship game when Sean Lewis was there. And they kicked their ass.
Well, which side of that was Sean Lewis?
Huskies gave it to Kent State bad.
Oh, Lewis lost. Northern Illinois won.
Yeah, so there's a relationship there. The difference is Northern is trying to groom a young quarterback, and they've been overscheduled to start. But they were in their last 2 games, including at Mississippi State Saturday, in it, and they kind of ran out of gas in the fourth quarter, and it kind of became lopsided. They're going to play San Diego State, traveling cross country in an early game. And they run the football, and they run the football, and they run the football. So they are going to test the manhood of the Aztecs' defensive front. So we'll see on the road, hostile situation. DeKalb, Illinois is a tough place to play. Mm-hmm. See if they can handle it. They win there. That's another statement victory to back up what they just did against Cal. They come home, bring on the damn Mountain West schedule, because then I think we start to feel much better about where they are in terms of the growth. So there's going to be a big challenge going there. But I told Sean Lewis today at the press conference, I said, Victory Monday, that feels pretty damn good. You think you can bottle this and hand it out next Saturday in DeKalb? So that'd be very interesting to see what they accomplish. But that was a really good night.
It's funny because first of all, I saw a little bit of the clip from the post-game presser, and like Sean Lewis, before he said a word, he had this big smile on his face. He's like, how about them Aztecs, And you are such a MAC guy, because you went to school in the MAC. And to me, the MAC is this sort of conference that you always think of as good but not great. And I know there's a lot of history there. So, and isn't Northern Illinois going to be coming to the Mountain West, right? It's part of that. But the other thing that was interesting in that game on Saturday night with the Aztecs is, before the game, I'm listening to the pregame show on 760, and they're talking, the keys to the game, and they said Lucky Sutton needs at least 22 touches, and if he does that, the Aztecs are going to win. He had less than half that, and yet the Aztecs just blew him away. So we saw, like to your point, it was Napier downfield, like 80-plus yards. Bostic is making plays. You've got to be, really thrilled for this, and just it would be awful if they went right back into the tank. If they could build on this, the San Diego community, they'll flock to Snapdragon.
I hope they do. Time will tell, but Victory Monday, that felt really good for Sean Lewis. We go from that. How about what USD just accomplished at Princeton, of all places, and how about what USC just did?
It's funny, the USC, because they played Michigan State, and I was excited because it was like the Trojans against the Spartans. It's just like the old Trojan War back in the day. And I had to look up a little bit more, and you learn about Jonathan Smith, and he was Oregon State, and he went to Michigan State, and that guy's an accomplished coach. And so I thought that game was going to be a lot tighter than it turned out to be. So SC proving, that they're, what do they used to do? Student body right, student body left. They're always a dominant program. So I'm happy for them. USD, I love that you follow and track USD periodically throughout the season, because they don't get any love in the local press. So, if you're able to come back, this huge turnaround victory against Princeton, that's special. And, it's cool that, we're seeing, it's a lower division of football, but it's cool that it's a competitive program. The Torero fans are out there supporting the program. And they used to have a longtime coach there. Was it Dale Lindsay?
Exactly. Longtime NFL assistant.
Yeah. So it's nice to see, because I know there was talk at times where they were going to scrap the football program, but they're sticking with it. They had some, controversy, obviously, in the locker room. That's behind him. So hopefully, bright skies ahead.
Okay. That's all things college football, but there were a lot of other games. We're just going to touch point on a few of the big storylines in college football around the nation. You're an Aztec fan, Southern Cal fan, USD. Join us. Fans Forum chat box belongs to you, so give us a statement and opinion. College football notebook here, John.
Yeah, there's some. These are all the great logos in the world of college football. Start with Oregon.
Civil War. I am so aghast at this storyline. Civil War, Oregon State. Rivalry is always played at the end of November, at the end of the season.
Oh, that's right.
In the rain and the mud and the cold of the Pacific Northwest, and it means so much. Rivalry's been played since 1894. This was the last game in the rivalry.
Oh.
Why? Because Oregon State is in the Pac-12. Oregon's gone to the Big Ten. Scheduling, it's the last time they're going to play. And Oregon, Dan Lanning is a great coach, great offensive mind. He's going to run the damn score up on everybody he plays.
Yeah.
Because he wants to recruit everybody on the West Coast. And he just did not take his foot off the gas pedal. 585 yards in offense. Oregon destroys Oregon State. I felt really bad for the people in Corvallis. Apple Cup, same as the Civil War. This should be at the last end of the season game in November. Washington sledgehammers Washington State, 59-24. Really good quarterback on the West Coast. Nobody pays any attention to. Was a freshman starter last year. Put up really nice numbers second half of the campaign, doing the exact same thing. Demon Williams, 294 through the air, 4 touchdowns. Washington State's got quarterback problems, but Huskies really playing well. Utah. We talked about this Friday, that this is going to be an important game. Wow. Texas Tech punched Utah in the mouth in the Big 12. Texas Tech, 4 takeaways. Texas Tech, 484 yards against the Utes, and the Red Raiders blow out Utah. Oklahoma, Auburn. Johnny Mateer, Heisman Trophy hot candidate. He throws for 271. Big controversy.
I saw this play.
This is called the lonesome end debate. Here they are in the fourth quarter at the end of the game. Oklahoma, fast offense moving down the field. Wide receiver for Oklahoma comes off the field. You think they're making a change. Well, he doesn't come off the field. He runs off the field, positions himself at the boundary marker, stands there. Mateer gets him in the line of scrimmage, snaps the ball. Receiver is out there on the edge, runs a streak pattern, wide open because nobody defended him. They thought he was leaving the game. It's an illegal play.
Yeah.
Southeastern Conference officials heavily criticized for that situation. It was an illegal play. I call it the lonesome end wide receiver story. It probably won't happen again, but it was the difference maker. Hugh Freeze, the Auburn coach, had a meltdown because it was not called. Florida State money game, they're playing really well. I hope Kent State got a lot of money because it was terrible what they allowed their kids to have to go through. Got beat 66-10. Florida State, 775 yards in offense against Kent State of the Mid-American. And a big game in the Big Ten. They were both 3-0, and now one of them's got a black eye and a bloody nose. Indiana destroyed Illinois, 63-10. They left their starters, and Kurt Cignetti did a really great job at IU last year at Indiana, but he did this last year, and I don't know that this is real sportsmanship at Indiana. He left his starters until about 4 minutes to go in the game. It just ran up the score on Illinois in a conference. That to me is kind of ticky-tack. So anyhow, Civil War Apple Cup should be the last weekend in November historically, and now they're going away because all these teams have gone to different conferences. John, the floor belongs to you.
Yeah, rivalry weekend is, that ship has sailed, unfortunately, unless, there's another reconfiguration. But it was just the Oklahoma and Indiana wins were just both big wins for those programs. I mean, I think Indiana, when they were facing Illinois, I think might have been a number 9 at the time. And now Indiana has moved up to 11. And one of my good friends is an IU alum, and he just gets excited because no one ever thinks about Indiana for football,
right?
And here they are, against Illinois, and they had a great game. And I was kind of watching the game and following it online, and they had a comfortable lead, through the first half. But then all of a sudden, I saw the final score. He was at 60 something to like 10, or it was like horribly like lopsided. I was like, wow, that was a beatdown. And then that Oklahoma play. You got Auburn in the house. I mean, that's a premier SEC program. So this is a big moment here for the Sooners to try to have some SEC cred, and then it's kind of like if you ain't cheating, you ain't trying. I mean, it's like a Pop Warner play, like one of those things where the quarterback fakes like they're going to talk to the coach and all of a sudden they start to run. So I don't know if it's an illegal play, which it sounds like it is. It should have been policed. But that was the difference in the game. Exactly.
Johnny Mateer is playing really, really well. And it was a hell of a football game, but the SEC is just beyond themselves, saying, how could these officials miss this?
Some home cooking.
Lonesome end game. Okay, that's all things college football. Feel free, jump on board. We got anybody from the Pacific Northwest? You tell me how important the Civil War is. Tell me how important the Apple Cup game is to those schools up in the Northwest. Final topics on the table, late breaking stories.
Yeah, the high-speed SPORTSWIRE got some NBA news.
All right, Mr. Capitalism, I just want you to explain this one to me. Golden State's got this big, young jumping jack forward, came out of Africa. His name is Jonathan Kuminga. He's been here 3 years. He's a restricted free agent. He wants mega money. There's been some issues between he and Coach Steve Kerr. Not a complete player, had injuries last season. Golden State wants to keep him. Golden State wants to develop him. Golden State has offered him 3 years, $75 million. That's $25 million apiece. The kid wants every minute of that contract totally guaranteed with his own options to opt out and go somewhere else. Now, he's a kid off the bench. He's not an established superstar yet. There have been flashes where Jonathan Kuminga has played well. Anyhow, they are at loggerheads. His agent informed Golden State this weekend, my client does not want to be here, does not want to play for Steve Kerr. Mm-hmm. He's a restricted free agent. He can't move. You will not work out a sign and trade. We're going to take the 1 year offer that he has a right to take, 1 year, $8 million, and we'll leave. 1 year, $8 million locks him in, and it also contains a no trade clause. He says, we're going to go where we want to go and get away from Steve Kerr. So this is odd because a kid was offered 3 years, $25 million per, and he's instead going to opt in and do 1 year, $8 million with the risk he gets hurt. Strange story. Hockey, Philadelphia Flyers. We lost another great goaltender. We had 3 goaltenders in 3 weeks who've passed in the NHL. Bernie Parent passed away at the age of 80 in his sleep. He had just Friday night, he had gone to a Philadelphia Flyers charitable reunion function in Delaware. He's lived forever in Philadelphia. 2 Stanley Cup rings, MVP, phenomenal player. The favorite phrase in hockey from the Broad Street Bully era, aside from what Fred Shero built with all those great players, Bobby Clark, Dave Schultz, R.S. Kinderchuk, Moose DuPont, and Bernie Parent, the great phrase was, only Jesus saves more than Bernie Parent.
That's a good line.
Yeah, 271 career wins. He was phenomenal.
Wow.
But Bernie Parent has passed away, and it's odd because that comes right on the heels. Last week, legendary Ranger goaltender Eddie Jacquemin passed. And the week prior to that, the Hall of Famer, iconic, most unique guy I think I've ever met in the NHL, Ken Dryden of Montreal. He passed away. Last topic, Minnesota Timberwolves. This bears watching. There's labor peace in the NHL. They've just announced a new collective bargaining agreement. Money levels shared with the players goes up and up and up. Next year they're going to an $84 million contract, or 84-game schedule, I should say. The prices to keep players continue to go up. There's a clause in the new CBA, I just found out about it, that a star player can guarantee a 20% slice of the total pie of a club's payroll. 20%.
One player?
One player.
Wow.
Kirill Kaprizov, who's a big goal scorer in Minnesota Wild, has just turned down a week ago $16 million, which would be the all-time record. He wants the 20% clause. He wants $20 million per year.
Show me the money.
Exactly, Mr. Capitalist. I don't know how Minnesota can afford that because you got to sign everybody else. And there are other stars there on that team. So they're really at loggerheads as to how they're going to handle this. He's got 1 year to go before he becomes a free agent. But he wants 20% of the entire payroll of the Minnesota Wild. So we got Golden State, we got the Flyers, and we got money in Minnesota. John?
Yeah, these are interesting topics, all three of them. Okay, the first one are the Warriors. Okay, is Mr. Capitalism. Capitalism is just about money. I mean, capitalism is free trade, man. You want to work for who you want to work for. Now, I don't know why he wouldn't want to work for Steve Kerr. I mean, who's a great coach.
Coached him hard.
Well, what the hell? I mean, come on, man. This is the NBA. You're going to be coached hard no matter where you go. But if he wants out, then fine. Let him out. Let the bird fly, and let him land somewhere else because the relationship's broken. The Flyers. I have a question. Are the Flyers called the Flyers because their skaters are flying all over the rink? Or is it like the radio flyer, like those sleds, like Rosebud?
That's a good question. I've had a lot of stupid questions from hockey fans, but I don't think I've ever had a stupid question. That's a really good question. I don't know why it's Flyers. You'll just have to get your $8,000 cell phone out, Google that.
Yeah.
Why are they called Philadelphia Flyers? You've never, ever heard me say, I don't know. But in this case, I know everything about everything, but I don't know the explanation of why it's Flyers. That's a really good question.
Yeah, and it flows with Philadelphia Flyers, everything. So and it's a great name, and it's a great-looking logo.
Sure.
And by the way, that Minnesota Wild logo is crap. No. Every time I see that logo, it's confusing to me.
It's a wolf, pine trees, and the sun. It's
but it's
10,000 lakes.
It's too much detail, So
well, when you put it on a white jersey with the color scheme and the logo is bigger, actually, it's pretty snazzy.
Okay, well, maybe in that context, but like right there on that board, every time when I'm building these boards before the podcast, I always have to, when I get the Minnesota Wild, I always have to triple check. Is that really the logo? But at any rate, 20%, of the payroll. I'd imagine some NFL quarterbacks are getting 20% of the payroll right now, aren't they?
Well, there's not many, but there is a max top for the NFL too. But this is new ground that the NHL's worked into. This is the first time anybody's ever brought this up.
Interesting.
And it's interesting is Connor McDavid is just like Kiprasov. His contract expires. He wants big money, but he's already said, I am not going to try to take the highest amount of money I can get because I want my Edmonton Oilers to be able to sign players to put around us and continue to be successful.
They don't want a Dak Prescott situation, right?
Yeah.
Where you get clogged up with too much money in one guy.
Ladies and gentlemen, please look at my friend here. This man critiquing the logo of the Minnesota Timberwolves.
No, that's the Wild.
Minnesota Wild. Mm-hmm. Aesthetics, color scheme, design. Look what he's wearing. He's wearing a checkerboard box blue shirt, and he's aesthetically critiquing Minnesota Wild.
It's just confusing,
No, it's the land of 10,000 lakes.
Yeah, I know. I understand the explanation. It's just... you want a logo in an instant, like the Nike swoosh, just do it. The Apple logo is just a clean apple with a bite taken out of it. Logos should be reasonably simple. This, I think the graphic artists got a little too creative for their own good.
Is there anybody from the Minnesota area code who would like to participate in this argument with this guy dressed this way? Feel free. Hey, we hope you've enjoyed all the topics we put on the table because we do sports talk the way it should be done. And part of this Monday podcast involves you. Fans Forum chat box is open. Podcast brought to you by DIXIELINE Lumber and Home Centers. 9 locations to serve you in San Diego. Build it, fix it. We guarantee you will enjoy it at DIXIELINE Lumber. Are you ready? Are you set? Go. Where do you want to start?
Okay, well, let's go in. Sometimes I start from the top chronologically. Let's start from the bottom chronologically. So I think it's probably going to go to our most recent guy. This is Bill. He goes, sorry, Lee, but I don't care about Roberts' record.
Talking Dodger baseball.
Dave Roberts' record. He's a deadhead stat guy with no respect for the game. Takes Glasnow Ohtani out with no hitters. And Sheehan, after 1 hit in 10 Ks. D got shelled 3 times.
Well, part of me says they're trying to protect guys from injuries. And some of these guys have a history of injuries. I guess my only beef is why do you keep giving the ball to Tanner Scott? Why do you bring Blake Treinen in? Now, maybe that's all going to change once this postseason roster is established. And Maybe Brock Stewart is on the roster, and Sasaki, I'm led to believe, is going to be called up, if not Tuesday, then maybe on Wednesday. So maybe the mixture of guys in the bullpen, but some of these guys are unproven. And by the way, this is postseason. You don't want to screw this up. But this bullpen has been so terrible. And, last week we broke down, actually put a full screen board list of all the blown games that each of these pitchers had this massive leads, guys throwing no-hitters, one-hitters, 12 and 11 strikeouts, and they turn it over to Trinan and company, and the whole thing goes down in flames. So I don't know if Dave's hands are tied, but that's what's in the bullpen. And outside of Alex Vesia, there's hardly anybody in the bullpen's getting anybody out. Big issue.
Well, here we are talking about Dodger problems, but they're still in first place pretty comfortably. Three-game lead with 6 to go, so they're probably going to win the division.
And if they win the division, it'll be 12 times in 13 years, and this guy wants to fire Dave Roberts?
Well, there's clearly something wrong, with the Dodger pitching. They should have won like 23 World Series in a row. They should be right there every year. And some of these years they flame out, and you're like, how do you flame out with this kind of they won in 20 with the asterisk season, and of course they won last year, but they really, seriously, they should have 4 or 5 titles. Well, then they got screwed by the Astros, but still, there's a problem. The
They've
pitching
mishandled the bullpen.
Well, and then last year it was a starting rotation that was a mess. And there's been criticism of Dave Roberts. There's something that isn't quite right, but there is no utopia. There is no perfect MLB team. Everybody's got problems, and this is the Dodger problem.
Okay. Hey, good to have you on board, Bill. Become a regular. Tell all your friends what we do Mondays and Thursdays on this podcast. Thanks for being batting leadoff here on Fans Forum. Next one.
Okay, let's go to our friend Steve Zach Botsford. He goes, hey, USC looked great. Need to clean up the penalties, and corners weren't that good. Offensive was explosive on all levels.
They've been doing this all season. They're 4-0. Now, granted, they played a bunch of 1AA people to start, but now they got back-to-back legitimate wins as they move into the teeth of the schedule. And, of course, there'll be some more road games that they're going to have to play going forward. But, boy, Maeva is rock-solid, consistent throwing it. That JUCO running back is really explosive. And they got some injury problems at wide receiver. Lemon is a big play guy. The other wide receiver's been on and off the field with a lot of nagging injuries. This looks like dynamic Lincoln Riley football.
Yeah, it's nice it's coming back to SC. And this is kind of another unusual tangent. In one of your commentary videos, you talked about the Aztecs, the Trojans, and the Bruins. And we had as a cover photo, it was Jaden Maeva of USC, and then Jaden Denegal of San Diego State. And what's interesting is there's a lot of players that are named Jaden or Jalen, that are, it must have been a common name, like 21 years ago when people were having babies, and so many different combinations of spellings. And you got Jalen Hurts, and you got, the kid
with the Washington Commanders
Jalen
Daniels.
Jalen Daniels. And then who was the previous quarterback for the Aztecs, the guy that used to be a safety? He was a Jaden or a Jalen, I think.
Maiden.
Yeah, Maiden. It gets confusing. With all these Jadens and Jalens out there.
Okay. We move on.
You're looking at me like I'm nuts.
Again. Next one.
Okay, let's go here to Michael. Which decade had the best Chargers teams?
Well, the Old American Football League Chargers. Actually, it's interesting you bring that up because I'm working with a guy that's writing a book on the history of Charger offenses. And he's used me as a resource and as a contact point to put other people in place. When the book gets published, I'll tell you about it. But the Charger era in the AFL, which preceded most all of us, was pretty damn good. That was Sid Gilman, and that was John Hadel, and that was Keith Lincoln, and that was Garrison. And, there's a lot of great – Lance Allworth. That was a great era. That was then followed by Eric Coryell, all things Fouts, maybe the greatest accolades and the greatest collective spree of offensive skill guys around one quarterback. And then obviously Phillip Rivers, though they never got to the Super Bowl, that was a really dynamic offense. Those guys are in the Hall of Fame. Antonio Gates, LaDainian Tomlinson. I think Rivers probably winds up in the Hall of Fame. So that was really good. This offense is dynamic. with Justin Herbert, but they obviously got to win a game in postseason. So I would think of the ones that I mentioned. I would have to say Air Coryell, even though they never got to a Super Bowl. But what they did from a record productivity standpoint was unbelievable. The old AFL was the old AFL, and that was an era of black and white TV, and nobody knew how to play pass defense. And here was Sid Gilman and John Hadle just chucking that ball all over the field. But I would say the Fouts era, because that was all about the great talent and the mismatches. And, I mean, they put points up on a board against everybody. Also threw a bunch of interceptions along the way. Never got to the Super Bowl because they couldn't play any defense. But I would say Air Coryell is the greatest Charger offense of all time.
Well, Air Coryell kind of spanned the 70s and the 80s, right? So it's kind of hard. I mean, if you're going to judge decades based on 70s, 80s, 90s. I mean, for me, it's the 90s. I mean, that was your era when you were broadcasting. Yeah, that was the year they went to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, but that was a uniquely different team. They did not have the firepower.
No, but they had success. I mean, they were in the playoffs there for 3 or 4 years during that span.
Yeah, but if we're matching greatness as much as Bobby Ross was beloved, and Bobby Beathard did a great job with that Charger roster, that one unique given year when it all came together, those guys would have never had a prayer staying in a game against Air Coryell and Fouts.
Well, no. Obviously, but that's what made it so special.
Yeah, and they would not have been able to hold their own against Phillip Rivers, Tomlinson, Gates, and the myriad of wide receivers they had over that long run that Phillip Rivers had.
Yeah, it was a different era. I mean, Jason chimes in on this. He says the 2000s, that 06 team should have won.
Should have. I concur with you wholeheartedly, but they got to the finish line. If you remember, a lot of people forget this. Phillip Rivers had knee scope surgery because of a ligament issue, and he played on it in New England. That's where they wound up getting eliminated. Tomlinson got hurt in that game. He couldn't play. So the bullet point guys were not really there, and they wound up losing to Belichick. The longer the game went with Brady, the worse it got.
Well, I'm trying to get there were different eras, because remember the one year they were 14-2.
That was Schottenheimer right at the end,
and Marlon McCree, that intercepted the ball, should have taken a knee, ran it, fumbled it. Tom Brady throws a touchdown, they lose.
Yep.
But I remember that other year when they went to the AFC Championship. I remember, God, what's crazy is that's like 20 years ago.
Yep.
We can still remember a lot of the detail. But I remember Tomlinson was sitting on the bench
with a helmet on
and kind of looking sort of stoic. People are like, do you care, or do you want your team to win?
Well, he was hurt.
But he was hurt, so you had to give him a little slack there. But it was just kind of a weird vibe. But Phillip Rivers, I mean, geez, he was like the New York Knicks guy coming off the bench, Willis Reed.
He was playing on a bad knee.
Yeah,
so tough era. But the Air Coryell era, and that's so long ago. We just celebrated the 30th anniversary of the Chargers. Stan Humphries, Seau, Harrison, Bobby Ross in the Super Bowl 30 years ago. Well, the Air Coryell era was way before that. Think about that. That's the bulk of the great years were 79 to 82, where Fouts put up 5 years of staggering numbers that nobody had ever seen.
Well, I think wasn't the Holy Roller in 78? It might have been. And I know that the 82 Super Bowl 16, that was the AFC Championship game. I don't know if it was played in January of 82 or December of 81, but that was the crazy Freeze Bowl in Cincinnati. And that was still Air Coryell.
Right.
But I remember they were the heavy favorite, but then they got killed by the weather in Cincinnati.
Well, they beat Miami in the heat and humidity in Miami the week before, and then they had to turn around and go play in 53 below wind chill in Cincinnati that next weekend.
It's a San Diego sports curse, man. Ooh. It gets you every time.
Okay, thanks for the input, James. Next one.
Okay, let's go up here to Jason. He goes, hey, gents, how are players bigger, stronger, faster? And it seems more than ever they get season-ending injuries, unlike the violent days of the NFL in the 80s and 90s. Niner fan here, and losing Bosa hurts so bad.
Well, at the end of the day, these guys are bigger, stronger, and faster, and they're more explosive. And you can do all the weightlifting and everything else that goes into training. But the one thing that does not change is the strength of the ligaments. And that's why you get all these ruptures in Achilles. That's why you get these torn calves, because they don't get bigger, they don't get stronger. Everything is power-driven with old-school ligaments and muscles. And that's why these guys are breaking down.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I totally get that. I mean, it's amazing there aren't more injuries. But, you know, that Najee Harris just blew out his Achilles. You got Bosa that went down. I mean, it sucks. I think Rashawn Slater going down for the Chargers, too.
And none of those were contact hits. They were just taking a stance into a pass block, knee explodes.
Just goes to show you how, to your point, the muscles are bigger, the ligaments are the same size, and they snap, and how fragile they really are.
And that's the exact same explanation why there's so many pitchers who've had this and this. Bigger, stronger, more velocity, more spin rate, but the ligaments don't change. You're putting even more inordinate pressure on the ligaments and the tendons in elbows and shoulders. That's why they're breaking down. That's why there's so many pitchers having Tommy John surgery, because they're bigger and stronger, and this breaks.
It's like gladiator games, man.
Yeah.
You know, it's just ferocious. Let's go here to David. And David, my apologies. I should have gotten you in first, but let's start with David here. DFA, the Dodger comment, DFA Trinan, we don't need a racist apologist on the team. What's that?
I don't know. Maybe Trinan has done something politically driven in the past. I don't know about that. I think there has to be huge debate whether you can risk putting him on the playoff roster, considering how bad he's pitched. He's 1-5 blown games in his last 7 relief appearances. His ERA, I want to say since August 1st, is like 5.35. Can you afford to give him the ball? Now, granted, you can't cut everybody. You know, Tanner Scott has really been untrustworthy for a whole chunk of time, but Trinan's had a lot of injury issues, so I think you take him off. But what do you do? I mean, maybe put M. Sheehan and let him be a long reliever.
You have him start. He had a hell of a start.
Well, he did, and he's pitched very consistently. But you're not going to need all these starters in a 3-game series,
right,
or a 5-game series. So maybe Sheehan is the one that goes to the bullpen, and then you make the decision, tough decision on Roki Sasaki. I mean, David, it's a legitimate question, but Sasaki's never done this before. Now he's had 3 good innings in a row at Oklahoma City, where they gave him the ball 1 inning each. He's faced a total of 9 batters, 5 strikeouts, clocked 98 to 100. He's not giving up a hit. Boom, boom, boom. But this is postseason. You're not pitching in AAA.
And he's young.
And he's young.
Yeah.
And by the way, you're not playing the White Sox or the Pirates or the Rockies in postseason. So tough call for the Dodgers. But the Trinan situation is he just doesn't have the ability to do it right now.
Do they get expanded rosters in the playoffs? I don't think so, do they?
I'm trying to think if it went to 26 to 28.
But I'd imagine they're going to carry 13 pitchers.
Yeah.
You know,
of course, Ohtani becomes the 14th pitcher, which gives them kind of an added edge.
Yeah, exactly. But, I mean, if you were to say, who are the Dodgers' top 13 pitchers, I mean, we could sit down and make a list, who we think are 1, 2, and 3 starters, et cetera. But they've got, like, 20 to 25 guys to pick from.
Well, they're not all healthy now.
Well, yeah, some of them are not healthy. But when you get down to the end of that roster, you're going to – and, I mean, Trinan used to be amazing. I mean, and same with Tanner Scott. They could rediscover it. So my point is you're going to end up having to cut some pretty good pitchers that aren't going to make that playoff roster. And then I kind of wonder, are they going to play a game where certain pitchers might make the first round, but then they swap them up and a different set of pitchers are in the second round?
You could do that. But you're talking about the mess with Trinan, the instability of Tanner Scott. Michael Kopech has already gone on the disabled list today, and he just can't get healthy, and he can't throw strikes. So that's 3 guys right there. There is no greater role at this point, but the report that I got is that he's going to be back the middle of this week. He's been thrown down there in AAA in rehab.
Yeah.
So, you know, and then you got 4 guys there. Then you got Sasaki's a question mark. So we'll talk more about it maybe Thursday as we get to the final weekend, or maybe on next Monday. Maybe we'll do a full breakdown.
We should. I mean,
you always wanted to be the damn general manager. So
well, it'd be fun to kind of pretend like we were assembling the roster, because you have Vesia and Banda, and there's and then Kirby Yates is the in or out. He's probably not going to be on it. So how do you put it all together? I think it'll be interesting.
Yeah, very good question, David. Thanks for being with us.
Okay, and let's continue the Dodger talk with Always Been Dime. Shout out to Clayton Kershaw.
I concur. I mean, great pitcher, 222 and 96 at this level, and all those surgeries and all those injuries. And I swear to you, John, he's getting by this year on guile. And his velocity is not what it was before. His location is still pretty decent. He's getting by on guile rather than just quality stuff. But what a great human being. I mean, I watched his press conference, and he went from everything from praising God and using biblical quotes, talking about grunge rock bands. He was just all over the place. So, and he's a special guy. What he's done for charitable foundations in Dallas-Fort Worth and in Los Angeles, special guy. First ballot Hall of Famer.
Oh, yeah, easy. Okay, let's go here to our friend Roberto, Talk Padres Talk. I still believe we can win in Chicago against the Cubs. Now that we have Xander back, he might be the fire that we need in the lineup.
Well, does Xander come off the disabled list tonight against Milwaukee and start swinging a bat, hit .315? I don't know, because he's hardly done baseball-related stuff recently. So I just think they'll spend the week spotting him, probably some. But I don't think he's going to play 9 innings every day right out of the gate coming off his fractured foot, and we'll just have to see if he gets his stroke back. Chicago's got problems. Chicago has really cooled down. Their starting rotation kind of looks fatigued. Imanaga was really dominant for the first half. Then he had physical woes. It was on and off the DL. The second pitcher, Matt Boyd, at one point I think he was 10-2. He might be 12-6 since that point. He's not the same. So Kyle Tucker has not played since September 2nd.
Really?
He's got a calf injury, and they sent him to a specialist in Florida at the end of the week for some type of specialized treatment. But he's not back yet. So, and they're not the same team with Kyle Tucker not being there. So they got an issue all of a sudden. Could the Padres catch them? Maybe. Although Milwaukee's in town here, Milwaukee's clinched, but Milwaukee's playing for first place and total home field advantage. So, Milwaukee's sending their 17-game winner, Freddie Peralta, out there tonight. Milwaukee wants to sweep this thing because they want to be the home field team, not the Phillies, for the whole playoffs. Yeah. So this is an important 3 games for the Brewers. So,
well, I was hoping that it wouldn't be that important. They'd have a big enough lead. No. But, nothing's ever easy, the road for the Padres.
So I think Padres have some legitimate chance to chase down the Cubs, but a lot of things would have to happen. And Arizona's in a fist fight for that last wild card spot. Who would have thought the Mets would fade so badly? Who would have thought the Reds, who have a partial lineup, and who would have thought Arizona would all be within 1 game of each other fighting for the last spot?
Well, I remember when we did our season preview, you had the Diamondbacks finishing second. Yeah. So what's going to happen here is they're going to sneak into the playoffs, and now you're going to be going, I told you so. We're going to be hearing that from you again.
But they sold off. They sold off 3 important pieces.
Yeah, they did.
Kelly, the first baseman, and the third baseman. And look where they are right now. I don't think they could go deep. I don't think they win a round if they get to the playoffs. I can't believe Cincinnati is 1 game back. Cincinnati's offense has been so spotty, and Cincy's pitching has been chewed up by injuries. And these guys, the Hunter Greens of the world, have just never been there in postseason. They're going to get if they make it, they're going to get postseason next week. And, oh, my God, it's the playoffs. They've never been there. It's going to be hard. You're going to freak out.
Yeah, I don't know if you've seen this, but there's like in social media in the last week or so, there's this Mets fan who is like a crazy Mets fan. He might even be like, on the spectrum somewhere. And he just rants about how the Mets are bombing and how they're just going downhill. And imagine if the Mets don't make it. That'll be the bigger story than I think the Diamondbacks or the Reds sneaking in.
Oh, yeah. Concur. The Mets are the second or third biggest spender in all of baseball after the Dodgers. Mm-hmm. But they've never had a healthy pitching staff. They never got out of spring training, and Kodai Senga's been hurt twice, and a whole bunch of their starters have just faltered badly.
But then they roll out, Sean Manaea pitches great against the Padres, of course, So it's fun when we get down to the end, And I love it when we get down the last 2 or 3 games. It's like, if this team wins and that team loses, then this is scenario A and scenario B, and they do that in the NFL too. I always like that.
Seattle. Look at Seattle. Now, they made trades at the deadline that have kind of changed everything.
Oh, totally.
Oh, look where Seattle. Cleveland, outside of Jose Ramirez, can you name me anybody in the Cleveland batting order? No.
Stephen Kwan.
Yeah, and he's a really good player. Mm-hmm. And they don't have what I'd call a great pitching staff, per se.
Bieber, isn't he still there?
Well, he's only had 2 or 3 starts since he came off the surgery.
They used to have a great pitching staff.
Yeah, and they've moved them all. But Cleveland's right there in the rush, too. So, Cleveland's about to chase down Detroit, and Detroit has gone into total collapse mode.
nuts.
Yeah, it really is.
I mean, it's crazy. It's like we look at it, we're myopic about the teams we follow. Padres, Dodgers, Angels to a degree.
Well, your dumbass co-host pays attention to everything.
But you do. But I mean, my point is that while we're going through our own emotional roller coaster, let's speak for myself. As a fan,
You're a wreck.
yeah, you're up, you're down, you're sideways every day. You know, you need to see a therapist.
You ought to see the stuff he sends me. He texts me. He's correct about wanting therapy.
But other fan bases are going through similar things, you know. And to your point, like because you had mentioned it in the show and then also in the Best 15 about that Mizorowski kid for the Brewers has now been demoted, you know. So again, that's the Brewers have had their ups and downs
And
too.
they lose Woodruff.
Yeah, I used to always think of Woodruff and Burns were like the two pillars of that rotation.
And one left as a free agent, and Woodruff spent 2 years trying to recover from surgery. That's a feel-good story. I mean, but he's 6-2, but now he's got a lat strain. You don't come back from a lat strain by next Monday. He might be done for the playoffs, which is a real blow. And Mizorowski got hurt after the fabulous 5 games, and he hasn't been the same pitcher since. And they got a pitcher. It's really interesting. He's going to pitch against the Padres, I think, on Wednesday. Quinn Priester. He was just a guy. He was a guy on the street. I think he's got 14 wins this season. I mean, in Milwaukee, it's just amazing how they've come together.
That's cool.
So, pennant race, baby. We'll tell you, by Thursday, we'll have an indication. By Monday, we'll be talking about the matchups.
Okay, this is a question. I'm glad we're going to sneak this in because it was such a busy sports weekend, but this is about San Diego FC. He goes, afternoon, gents. Does Anders Dreyer have a shot at winning the MLS MVP, or will Messi bias overshadow what a first-year Dreyer and SDFC has done this season?
The Danish player's got 15 goals. That's really impressive. For an expansion team, that's off the charts. Mm-hmm. I don't know that he's going to get MVP. That obviously is a huge push just because of Messi's resume, etc. But I was kind of disappointed. I thought they'd go into Atlanta and they'd mop them up because Atlanta's in a very good offensive side, and yet they wound up in a 1-1 tie, and they had chances to put the game away. I think the coach was kind of disappointed because that looked like that was 3 points they should have had in the win column, but they didn't get.
Yeah, with tie in Atlanta. But it's just been such a magical season. I mean, because I think they said at that game they tied in Atlanta, but it was their first non-win on the road in since May or something. Yeah. So it's been a wonderful season. And I saw reports from MLS, even on the MLS, studio show before the games, they were talking about Anders Dreyer as the MVP, a few weeks ago. So I've got to believe he's going to be the favorite to win it.
He's really played well. He's been very, very consistent. Other guys, Chucky Lozano and Elaski, when he was here before he was allowed to leave, those guys had spurts where they played well. This guy's been rock solid right from the start.
Because he hasn't really been hurt. Right. Lozano has been hurt a lot.
Yeah.
But still, when Lozano touches the ball, it's different.
He's explosive.
Yeah, he's a very special player.
Okay, thanks for being with us, Callum.
Okay, let's go to our friends in social media because we got a lot going on over there, Lee. And let's go here to, let's talk some Pac-12. And this is with Husker Magic. And he goes, I doubt the Pac-12 will survive beyond a few years with only 8 football members. I presume they will need to add at least 2 more members. Since the valuation of Pac's media rights deal may not be worth much more than that of the AAC's media rights deal, I doubt the Pacific Athletic Conference will be able to entice any AAC members to realign with the Pac.
Well, I think there'll be some dominoes that are going to change and fall. But they're going with who they have, and I don't think it's going to be the media rights deal that everybody had really expected. Adding Texas State, that was the last one that was out there. I thought there's much more tradition, and we have followers in Texas. I thought Rice would have been a name recognition thing. I'd love to have BYU in the conference, but that's not going to happen. They're going to stay where they are. So the Pac-12 is not what the Pac-12 used to be or the Pac-10 used to be. So we'll just have to accept this is a new look, and I just don't think it's going to be very, very dynamic to me.
Yeah. I mean, everything's so different.
Yep. But
the more I'm learning about Texas State, the more I'm thinking, okay, maybe I've underestimated them a little bit because the university is really growing,
sure.
And that whole San Antonio, Austin area overall is really growing.
But emotionally, Are they anywhere near close to anything Longhorn related or Aggie related or Baylor Bear related or Houston Cougar related?
But still, like, the point I'm making is that I think that university, generally speaking, is rising up. And you got Rice, sure, great name. I think of Rice more as a baseball school really than anything, but Rice doesn't excite people in Houston.
I mean, it is name recognition.
It is, but I guess what I'm saying is I'm willing to extend the benefit of the doubt to Texas State.
Well, let them prove themselves.
And let them prove themselves, but they're going to need more than 8. They got to get a couple more.
Yeah. Well, the other storyline is they have Gonzaga basketball, and this insinuation that there are meetings behind the scenes with St. Mary's, that would give them more recognition basketball-wise, but it doesn't change anything in terms of football. And I just think football is the equivalent of being Mountain West 2.0 right now.
Well, the only thing that's going to change is if they consistently win. If Pac-12 teams in the non-conference schedule can go out, like kind of like what San Diego State just did over the weekend. Smoke 34-0 of an ACC team. If we have some more of that, maybe the Pac-12 can sneak back in to be a 5th in the Power 5. Maybe, but that I don't think that it excites anybody.
Yeah. Nobody on the Eastern Seaboard paid any attention to the Aztecs' dominant win against Cal. Nobody freaking cares because nobody watched because it was so late.
Yeah. It was like an 8 o'clock start time, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Or was it 7:30?
7:30.
7:30, yeah.
USC was an 8 o'clock start
That's
time.
The one
in
that
East
was
Lansing.
later, yeah.
Luckily, the bars in East Lansing always stay open. So. All right, let's do a couple more here before we put a lid on it.
Okay, speaking of conferences, this is a good one from SL Man talking UCLA. UCLA, a very small fish in a big, big pond. Time to bail the conference. Mountain West, anyone?
UCLA's in the Big Ten. What I think has to happen is they need to hire a name coach. And if it's not the head coach from UNLV and there's a big push for him, then it should be somebody with name recognition out of the Deep South who's going to carry that into the Big Ten Conference. It can't be some ex-UCLA football player or former UCLA coach. It's got to be somebody with national credentials. And I'll be honest with you, their chancellor came from Miami. The guy moved here a year ago. I got to believe he's going to carry clout, and he knows because he supported the rebirth, regrowth of all things Miami Hurricanes. I think they hire somebody with SEC credentials and background, and they'll give them the resources. And if you hire a name coach with success, the alumni who've been standoffish vis-a-vis Chip Kelly and Deshaun Foster, they'll come back to support the program, but it's a road back.
Yeah, it's interesting. This has been sort of a running joke in social media, about UCLA getting demoted to the Mountain West. I mean, it's a disgrace. So hopefully they get their stuff together. But that athletic director, I don't know how he's still employed.
I concur. I mean, Martin Charmond, what has he done outside of Mick Cronin? I don't think he's done anything. And they got a $216 million deficit. And they have a credibility problem in football now that is beyond discussion. And why he still has his job, maybe he won't have his job. Maybe this new chancellor will come in and take care of that problem after he takes care of the football problem. But I believe right now, based on what I hear from my networking, that they're going to hire somebody with Southern credentials who knows that chancellor, who that chancellor respects.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, you want to talk Raiders here? Sneak one in? And this is from Joe Barr. This is responding to your challenge. You said, since 2010, I think the Raiders were 100 games under 500. And he says, from 2010 through 2024, the Raiders were 99 and 145 in the regular season and 0-2 in the playoffs.
Okay, they haven't done anything since Mark Davis took over. And with all the excitement with Pete Carroll coming on board and the acquisition of Geno Smith, the drafting of Ashton Genty, excitement changes. But then they proceeded to lose a ton of people defensively in the back 7, linebackers and secondary. And their offensive line is really poor right now. So it's going to take time, a lot of work to be done. And I don't know if that's the exact number that I had, but I went back at least to 2010. Maybe it was even prior to that. I swear to you, their total franchise numbers are disgraceful in the NFL, considering who the Raiders used to be.
Yeah, I'm just kind of doing the quick math in my head, is that over 15 years, you have to be kind of 7 games under 500 every single year to be 100 games under 500 over a 15-year span. Mm-hmm. So that means you need to go, like roughly speaking, 5-12 every year. and that would be miserable. The Raiders had a few better moments. They played a little better than 5-12.
Yeah, they had some odd good years, Gruden, etc. But so maybe that is the record. I have to go back and dig up what I've written, but those are deplorable numbers considering it's a Raider Nation.
Deplorable. Okay, you want to go? We got time for one more? One more. Okay, let's go here. Dodgers. Talk Dodger bullpen. This is with Coconuts. The Dodgers bullpen isn't a problem in the playoffs. They have Snell, Yamamoto, and Glasnow for starters. Ohtani if needed. Sheehan has been amazing and can provide long relief. Kershaw can help out the bullpen. Sasaki and Gratterall may be available. Vessier has been mostly very good. So who are you saying is going to blow it up? Yates, Trinan, and Scott, who were fabulous last year, are stinkers. The rest are the same as every other team. I think they'll peak and win it.
Well, there's no doubt. Now the question is, will they get quality starts and guys go into 7th, 8th innings? Don't know. But they're going to have somebody they can trust coming out of the bullpen. And those guys you mentioned, you can't trust any of these guys right now. Not the Yates and not the Trinans. And obviously, Tanner Scott has just been so skitterish. So one of the starters might wind up being a guy. Sasaki, boy, that's a reach. He's never done it at this level in postseason. And in terms of Ohtani, they've had, I was told they've now had 3 meetings about Ohtani, and they seem to have backed off a little bit. That's asking him to do something radically different. And his regimen is his regimen, and they're afraid they'd screw it all up if they asked him to pitch out of the bullpen and be ready to pitch out of the bullpen once or twice in a short series. So Bears watching. Next Monday is going to really be fun when they start putting together their rosters.
I agree. And Ohtani, we already know he doesn't hit as well on the days he pitches.
Right.
So imagine if it's a day that he's been told, we may use you in the bullpen, and he's hitting and, he's thinking of other things. I mean, so that would be very difficult. But, I'm looking at all these names, and like I said earlier, I think they're going to get a solid 13-man pitching rotation or pitching staff. But what it does remind me of is I remember as a kid when you would go into a 7-game series, your number one guy would pitch the 1st, the 4th, and the 7th game if it went 7. Mm-hmm. They don't do that anymore. Usually they pitch the 1st and the 5th. And then you end up having your number 2 starter, or am I doing my math right? No, maybe it's like a number 3 starter that's probably starting game 7. Everything's changed.
Yeah, very much so. And the Dodgers a year ago did it with bullpen days, 2 of them in postseason play. I said, wow. But they did it. But right now they got guys in that pen that you just can't trust. And you can only go to Vessier and Bando, who've been more reliable so many times.
It's just, here's what's going to happen. We're going to be going into the playoffs, right? And everything's going to magically work out for the Dodgers, like it always does. Like last year, they were down to the Padres 2-1 in San Diego. They were about to get kicked out of the first round or the second round.
This sucker's over.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden, the bullpen pitches out of their mind. The analytics guys, the nerds, are pushing all the right buttons, and everything worked. So that's why I think it would be so Dodgers to have Sasaki as the secret weapon that no one remembers from the early part of the year. And he comes in, and you're like, who is this guy? 100 miles an hour, and he's perfect closer. It's something like that's going to happen, and the Dodgers are going to waltz into the World Series again.
Dude, he's never, ever done it.
Yeah, I know, but it's Hollywood, it's the whole script, that's going to work perfectly. But, and the Padres are going to make a mistake, and boom, it'll be 2 in barbecue, and they'll be out of the first round.
1 and done.
No, 2 and done. 2 in barbecue.
I'm going to hold you accountable on all this. Hey, listen, we hope you have enjoyed this podcast. We love having you be part of this. It's just absolutely stunning how many followers we have on a week-by-week basis. We're here Mondays and Thursdays at 1:30. Hope you've enjoyed the content. Hope you'll tell your friends. Check my website. You won't believe the volume of information. Register. Get on the email list. Also, subscribe so you'll get the alerts every time we put something up on the YouTube channel. We will be back here Thursday. We'll set the stage for the final weekend of the baseball regular season. We'll have another weekend of NFL games to talk about, and we'll go round and round the table. Some huge college football games on Saturday that we will discuss, too. Podcast podcast brought to you by Dixieline Lumber and Home Centers, 9 locations to serve you. Check out the website, DIXIELINE.com. You'll be amazed at all the information they have. John, take a deep breath. Don't wear that Dodger blue shirt again. We'll talk to you come Thursday.
Who's playing tonight, Monday Night Football?
Detroit, Baltimore, take no prisoners.
Oh, there'll be a good one tonight.
Lamar Jackson, Jared Goff. Damn right.
Yeah, this is going to be good.
And we'll talk about that, too, on Thursday. Thanks for being with us. Always great to have you part of our team on Hacksaw's Headlines.
Join us again for Hacksaw's Headlines on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. And find the audio version on your favorite podcast apps.
Touchdown, San Diego!
For more content, go to LeeHacksawHamilton.com.